Finally, after an absurd amount of money spent, several nights watching boring giveaway streams and a needless travel to Las Vegas, I can finally claim I have collected every variant available in the game. I feel untouchable.
I bet you thought I forgot about these variant videos, especially after that half-an-hour video that did like shit. No, I just consider it would be less tedious to format them in a trimestral format. It's not like one or the other will generate more views, so might as well pick the lesser pain in the ass, right? That being said, here's the long overdue recap of September. Still good, and still good. Yeah, that was quick, I don't care. As per usual, if you buy the Battle Pass for the variants, that's weak, but also buy it if you're really interested in the gold variant at the end. You'd think that December's pass would really do me in for the sake of committing to the bit. Well, think again, sucker, this game is my bitch and a half.
Suckers!
Autumn season passes have had a special quirk to it in the matter of guest artists, such as the Art Speedrunner, the Balance Soul Shill, and those two I see on the occasion, but otherwise don't give a shit. Does it impact the variants in any way, shape or form? No. Additionally, as it's been recent news and something I unfortunately blundered, apparently seasonal variants will not be released after 9 months from their showcase. Which needless to say is rather insane, and I genuinely hope they change their minds on it. Regardless, moving on with the show. Scaregiver is similar to the majority of Cerebella's, mildly useful, but ultimately irrelevant. She has some partially good assets in the form of haste and wither, and it's very easy to gain at that. At the same time, there's multiple sources of haste that do a much better job in other fields. At least the recovery and chip damage are health functional. Provided if you know Cerebella combos, then you'll make the most of her. Otherwise she'll come across as really mediocre. It's not supported by the fact that her odds are at base 20%. Which is not very high for a low combo character, and it can take a while to fully chip out an opponent, and cases with fast-paced recovery won't really care for the occasional 3% loss. Just leave her to gather dust and maybe use a Philly instead. Same thing, better in all aspects really, except opponent control, I will give it that.
You don't scare me! Work on it!
Foot Soldier is essentially Jawbreaker's damage bonus, but actually more fun to play because you're not playing as double for one. Gaining as many buffs as possible is the name of the game, but it also works with opponent buffs, so it's on the average end as a damage increase. Other than that, it's another run-of-the-mill aspect. Thankfully her other ability is a bit more interesting, where she can remove a debuff from herself and gain both a random buff and Deadeye for 7 seconds. On a head hit. Yeah, it's one of those, and if you're shit at headless, she's likely going to appeal less to you. I'm sorry to say, but she comes across as a lesser silent kill with Deadeye added in. Strong for sure, but kinda so-so at the same time. Maybe for headless players it has something to offer.
Why does he keep kicking me in the dick?
Primal Prodigy comes across as Dark Horse with extra steps. By all accounts she's functional, but her requirements don't make her as favorable. For one, she needs to have a buff on her expire, so she can inflict curse and disable specials. The good thing is that she gains buffs constantly in 4-second intervals, so you effectively keep the opponent under curse. The main downside is that suffering any hit will reset the timer, so you have to avoid both getting hit and block at all times. Disabling specials helps, since you prevent a few projectile moves being used, but you also have to complement it with intercepting. The blockbuster meter you gain from each buff Primal acquires is nice though. It helps her spam a bit more often, but outside of that it's rather minor. Not to mention her damage is on the average side of things. You can go wrong with using her, but at the same time there's better options out there.
Oh, these are pretty cool bananas.
Bombshell can be described as a fun powerhouse that has limited usage. Spawning tiers will generate random buffs between Barrier and Rage and Regen. They're long lasting, so you can profit from them for a while. Otherwise, it's mildly useful for some extra coverage. Then you have the matter of unblockable tiers, and this can be useful for the sake of a free opening. It's fun to fully lock the opponent within a loop, I'll give it that. Definitely she's one of those cases that was made for fun primarily. Not so much to be fit into the meta, although with a good strategy and some luck she could still fit somewhere I guess. But otherwise she's gonna remain as the funny loop bear soul.
Let's see you in action, you little
Is it bad that despite being on the mediocre end, I actually like Demon Artist? She suffers from a major disadvantage in the need for charges as means to inflict bleed, and the need for bleed as means for gaining enrage and recovery. Conditions upon conditions are the primary turnoff, and renders her as much slower than just spamming Ringlet Spike or relying on Leech for extra health. And for a closer comparison, I guess she's a more convoluted Lovecrafted. Her only true benefit would be the access to Curse in Squealy's kit, and it's convenient for the most part. You get to chip out the likes of Assassin's Creed and Black Dahlias with relative ease, provided your set is good enough. And when it comes to prize fights at least, she can certainly pull off snowballs by keeping constant bleeds on the opponent. Obviously being good for prize fight isn't the highest award ever, so unfortunately she remains in a middling position. I may use her often anyway. I find her entertaining at the very least.
God, I hate the internet, I really do.
It's a diamond water pinwheel. By default this shit will function. But does Webcrawler's ability contribute or not? Well, I can best describe her as a mild annoyance in that aspect. The guard break means if you confront her, you shouldn't play all that defensively and pressure her. And that would be it for defense really. Not all that obnoxious outside of the assets we're familiar with. Offensively, she has a bit extra to offer. Alongside guard break, she also gains Deadeye, which can be helpful to fight off the usual shit Deadeye counters. Its conditions are actually quite simple, just requiring Pinwheel in the air for a second and a half. That has to be the only attempt in years to push flight risk in the spotlight. Anyway, I'll just do a launcher real quick. Yeah, it works. Her last edition is essentially a more updated version of Rusty, removing one buff and gaining evasion on hit, only this time with better odds. It's a functional ability, but missing on recovery sources can really hurt her offensive potential. It's good against Final Fight, but most of her matchups are not favorable. Just relegate her to defense, she's bound to function there regardless.
He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Oh my God. There must be 50 bras on this page.
Whoa, I gotta get on that.
No. Bra shopping in here.
Let me see. Come on.
Do you mind?
You will bookmark that.
Oh, what? You never seen a bra before?
Not with the boob meat inside of it.